Hello everyone, it's Kate here again, and I wanted to talk to you in this video about one of my favorite authors. She's a mystery author named Ruth Rendell. Let me pull the books over here. Okay, so I've tried like 3 times to do a review of Ruth Rendell, and I keep not liking how I did it. So this is my 4th try, and hopefully I'll get it right this time. So, Ruth Rendell, this is the first book in her Inspector Wexford series. I have only read one of her non-Inspector Wexford series, and she also has a pseudonym, Barbara Vine. So you have lots to look forward to if you like mysteries. Okay, Ruth Rendell does kind of the small village mystery. So like Miss Marple, kind of similar to that, small place, it's not the big booming city, and you really get to know the town of Kings Markham. It's a suburb of London. And her sleuth, Wexford, he's not very interesting. He's plain talking, he's intelligent, he's literate, so it is kind of fun, you know, sometimes him referencing literature, but he doesn't have the most personality. What makes these books so interesting is the psychology of the victims and the psychology of the killers. That is what makes them so fascinating. In this first book, it's just Margaret Parsons. She's a normal housewife, and she goes missing. But Wexford makes her the most important person in the world to himself, simply because she was murdered and her life was taken before it should have been. He is really concerned with doing the right thing, and her killer needs to be found because they did the wrong thing. They took someone's life, and it wasn't their right. So, a housewife goes missing. They don't know where she is. It seems like, oh, maybe, you know, she left her husband, but Wexford wants to investigate. And I don't really want to tell more. She just seems like a normal housewife, and she goes missing, and that's all I'm willing to tell from this one. Wolf to the Slaughter. This is the 3rd in the Wexford series. The police, they find in a room in a kind of like shabby hotel, they find a ton of blood, but no body. They need to find the body. And then at the same time, there's a beautiful woman who's gone missing, and they don't know where she is, and she's sort of a famous woman. So they think that that's her, but Wexford doesn't want to say that for sure until he's investigated it further. So they know there's a murder, but they can't find the body. It's really interesting. A Guilty Thing Surprised. I really like this one, and this plot actually, it does sound fairly interesting, and a lot of hers take place with more middle-class people, but this is one that takes place with more wealthy people. So this is just a couple lives in a big estate, and the wife goes on a walk every night, and one night she's murdered on her walk. So if she goes on a walk every night, that means the person who murdered her knew that. So that means they either work in her estate or they were one of her friends. So that's really interesting. Someone who knew her well. Shake Hands Forever. A man up and leaves his wife for a pretty young girl, destroys everything, makes his, you know, mother angry. No one likes his new wife, and then she's murdered. And Wexford can tell that he's not upset after she's murdered, but he thinks that he did it. But why would he murder this woman who he left everything for? He betrayed trust in everyone for. It's really interesting. Wexford knows there's a piece of the puzzle that's missing, and he wants to find out what it is. Next, Kissing the Gunner's Daughter. A woman calls the police and says that she's dying in her house, and her mother and her grandmother and her mother's boyfriend have all been shot and killed, and please come, please save her. And so they get there, and they get there just in time. She says that 2 men came in the house and started taking jewelry and came downstairs and shot them all. And Wexford knows that something doesn't add up. He can't figure out what, but he knows that something doesn't add up. How did these 2 men get into the house? How did they leave? No one saw them come or go. It's it's really interesting. And he is interesting in that he's asking this woman, you know, who was shot but lived, all these questions. He has the guts to do that. This woman who's grieving the loss of her mother and grandmother and mother's boyfriend. It's really interesting. So, I can't talk enough about Ruth Rendell. If you like mysteries in the least, you should check her out. I would start with From June with Death because they're semi-sequential. So, yeah, if you're interested in reading them and you read them and you like them, let me know what you think. If you don't like them, let me know what you think. I'm always interested in discussing. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you all read some Ruth Rendell. Thanks for watching, and have a great